afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Humanity Happy Hour. We are under the umbrella of bringing humanity together, where we would like to bring humanity into the workplace by bringing the employee and the employers together to the same table of humanity. This is just one of our 3 presentations that we have every day at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. We have Share and Care with Sandy on Tuesdays and Conversations for Humanity on Wednesdays, and then Humanity Happy Hour on Thursday. When you are jumping onto the call, feel free to let us know where you are logging on from. If you jump onto the Restream thread and you'd like to join us in the live conversation, we will let you in as spaces permit in the conversation. Otherwise, you're more than happy to comment on the live feed in LinkedIn, and we'll be monitoring both of those and proposing any questions or comments that you have. If you have comments to make, feel free to join us on the Restream site and jump in on all the fun. We'd really like to keep these conversations open and respectful and give everyone a chance to share their point of view and keep it to the topic at hand. So today we have Chris Berryman. He is our vision man for bringing humanity together. And Sandy Chernoff, who does soft skills with her own company out of Canada. And my name is Carla. I'm a health and wellness professional, nurse practitioner, and I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. So today I was thinking that we would talk about how working from home has changed the way we look at leadership when you're in a leadership position. And I know we talk a lot about how there's a difference between leadership and leading versus managing, and all the different styles with that. But this work from home from COVID has really projected the whole idea of management and leadership into a whole nother direction. I know that a lot of people before COVID were working from home maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and then they were going into the office for a couple of days a week, or vice versa, just to have a presence. And, we can talk about things like how people feel about working from home. Do they like it? Do they not like it? What do they like about it? What do they not like about it? And then from a leadership perspective, what leadership has what dynamics have changed in the leadership roles throughout the this whole past year as we make that shift. I think that it's great that in some respects leadership has had to let go of managing people and allowed them to have the ability to show that they don't necessarily need to be micromanaged, that they can work from home, that they can find that balance for family and work, and they can get their work done on their own schedule. So these are all just things that we're going to talk about today. And you guys, like I said, feel free to jump on and with your questions if you're on the LinkedIn live stream, or join us in our chat room. And Melinda has joined us from New York. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good. It's great to see you.
Yes.
We were going to talk about how leadership has changed over the past year with everybody working from home. I know I was looking at some statistics, and it seems as though God and everybody put an article out in March, April, May of 2020 about working from home. And they said that before COVID, only about 15% of people were actually working from home, even on a part-time basis. And that went up to as much as 50%. And I know surely it has gone higher than that over the summer.
I see that working from home is different. It's a whole different dynamic than seeing people every day in person. It's so different. It's like you saying hi. It's weird. I mean, I do kind of like it better because I do like sometimes that time that you get to yourself. but I still do miss that significant, important social interaction with people. This people, it's just normal. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like, a different dynamic now. You're just seeing each other on the screen, exchanging words, conversations, doing tasks, whatever you do, I do from home. It's a central point now for life right now, as we see. And it's quite unique. It's interesting, something to get used to. I don't think I will ever, but the normal seeing each other. Good morning, how are you? Waving to somebody, making someone
Mhm.
smile. That's a
The
whole
human connection.
thing then. Being on this camera and it's just at home or wherever you are. And like I said, this communication dialogue going on, and it's about things that you're going to bring and make change in the world and stuff, but it's from a different perspective and way that we're doing it from the central canvas, our home.
Mhm.
Um, I'm
Do you
getting used
like do
to
you
it.
like communicate? Do you like the Zooms or?
The Zooms are fine. I enjoy them. I think it's good because we have a better way to communicate with each other back and forth, have the dialogue going, which is very important. And in the workforce, sometimes maybe this is a little less so on top of people that you just feel easier to communicate and just get into whatever you need to express to your job people, whatever around you, about the task or whatever at hand.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this is going to take a while because it's been a year in this pandemic, and so we have been able to see how the pandemic has impacted work. How do we
Mhm.
do it? If you continue to work, some people leaving the workforce, but I think it's a good thing because if you can still do your passion and reach people, touch someone's lives, so many others, doesn't matter where you're doing it from, as long as the job is getting done and you have
Yeah.
that goal and you have people backing you, that's all you need. And that's important no matter what.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
I know. I recommended Zoom meetings or what is the other company that does meetings? I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but because when I was in healthcare, we would work at a satellite office a good 30 minutes away from our main office, and what they would want to do is that they would want to call like a staff meeting, and they'd want us to come down to the main office. Well, that's a half hour down, get situated in the meeting, have a meeting, and then turn around and go back to the office. And even though you only still had an hour before the end of the day, you still had all the people that you never dealt with between that time you were traveling from noon to 3 o'clock and having a meeting. And it took them a long time to realize how unproductive that was, because regardless, the work still had to get done, you know. So I was always a proponent of doing staff meetings and things like that video. Yeah, it's always great to be able to get together, but you got to pay the price of it. The price of it is you end up staying later to get your work done because you have to get your work done. I think that the videos have been a great second to being able to get together one on one. I
mhm.
much prefer a video over a phone call because I just find that they're more personal, you know. When in what I do now, if I work with prospective clients or anything like that, I much rather do a video with them because I can get to know them one on one and have that face to face interaction, even though it's over video. But we were talking before you got on the phone, and Sandy had a great point that she could probably elaborate on about communication and how I think through all of this, communication's got to be the biggest shift that people have had to make in communicating with their team, with their boss, one-on-one with their boss. And for a lot of bosses, it's been a new way that had to figure out how to work with people. Right, Sandy?
Absolutely. And if you don't have that regular communication, then, it is hard because at the office, I mean, you can always knock on somebody's door or meet in the lunchroom or whatever. But when we're all working from our different homes, we can't get together. But it's very important, particularly if we're working collaboratively on a project, to be able to have a meeting like this where we can talk to each other and share ideas and so on and so forth, because otherwise it's very difficult. And it's important that the leader, whether it's a manager or it's, the owner or whatever, it doesn't matter, also touch regularly with the employees, because sometimes they might need some direction on what exactly the timeline is, or specifically what is expected of them in terms of what has to be done by the end of the week or so on and so forth. And there has to be regular communication. And I think it's better, like Carla said, to have, these video things. We're lucky to have the technology we have today, rather than just a phone call or an email, because you can't really discuss things that well, and particularly not in a group. And conference calls are not as effective, I think, as these kinds of meetings on Zoom or Skype or, whatever people use. Because again, if we can have a discussion and everybody has their opportunity to share their ideas and so on and so forth, it's much more productive, and it'll be far better in terms of the outcome. But that has to be something regular. It's probably something that needs to be done at least once a week. And the boss needs to organize that, and everybody needs to put it into their calendar and know that on, Tuesday afternoons or Monday mornings or Friday afternoon, doesn't matter when it is, that we have our meeting and we get together with the people that we normally work with in the office to discuss how the project is going and how everybody's doing, and if anybody has a problem, can we help them with it, whatever. Otherwise, I'm sorry, with everybody working from home, it's very difficult to do things, especially if we're working on it together. So it is important to get together, even though we're doing it virtually, to be able to have that opportunity to discuss things. And that's why communication is really key, especially with this working from home situation. And the word out there is that a lot of offices may never go back to being the way they were. It is they save money because they don't need to rent a big office. The employees save time and money because they don't need to be commuting to the office. So in certain situations, it may not go back to the way it was.
Yeah.
Again, I think it depends what you do and how things operate. But I think in certain situations, a lot of it will remain this way even after the pandemic is over.
Yeah.
And, people have to get used to this and have to deal with it in a way that still allows us to get things done and get it done well and on time and so on and so forth. And without communication, that can't happen. It just can't. Everybody can't a box.
I think the transition would be easier to switch from live to video. Like, for example, if you were working for a company and you always had Monday morning team mornings, or Monday morning coffee sessions, or, you got together and figured out what the goals were for the week and who needed help with this and that. There was an article I was reading about how we need to be adjusting for different work, the way people are working, because say, for example, I don't have any children at home. My husband doesn't count as a child. He's quite independent. And the only other child I might have is the beagle. But for me as an employee, if I were working for a company and I didn't have any kids, I could probably get a lot more done than I would if there was a coworker that had 3 kids at home that were doing virtual learning. And they had to help them. And it was, Mommy, can you help me with this? And Mommy, can you help me with that? And, those constant interruptions. And that's just kind of the way it is. And a lot of people have had a lot of stress in adjusting to that. And I think that those that are able to finish whatever it is that they're working on shouldn't sit back and say, well, hey, I'm done. I'm done with my part of the project. I'm going to take the afternoon off. I personally think that people need to take the initiative to help out those other ones that have those restrictions that are prohibiting them from working to their best ability like they would in the office, because they're stuck at home with their kids, And I think that communication and asking, not just, hey, did you get that done? Did you get that done? Did you get what you had done? it's like, hey, I'm done. Can I help you with your part of the project? You know, what can I do to help you? Like doing it for the team. And if somebody needs help, ask for the help. That's
Exactly.
part of communicating. Don't sit there and think that people are going to think worse of you. Ask people for help.
Nothing wrong with
It's
asking
not a
for help.
scorekeeping
No.
situation that there's no I in team. I did my part. So
Yeah.
where's your part,
But I think, again, when we're working collaboratively on a project, whatever it may be, if somebody needs an extra hand, or especially if it's something that you kind of like to do anyway, then, why wouldn't we help out? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But we have to have the communication to find out that the person hasn't gotten it done, and we've got to meet our deadline by the end of the week. And unfortunately, they've been stuck at home with a kid who needed a lot of extra work because they had projects to do at school. And so, okay, well, I finished my portion, so just tell me what needs to be done and I'll take care of it for you. No big deal.
Yeah.
But we have to have these conversations to find that out so that we can help. And we should. I mean, that's what teams do. They work together and they help each other. And, especially now when they're not in the office space, we need to hear what's going on. So we need to have those conversations. And it's very important. So yeah, whether it's Monday morning, so we set it up for the week, or, whatever it is, or if in the middle of something, we need some help, then contact one of your colleagues or a couple of your colleagues and ask them if they can help you. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. It's just a matter of the communication has to be there. And we have to have that set up, and we have to know that that's a possibility if there's a problem, to get in touch with whoever, whether it's, the manager or it's one of your colleagues that would like to do this, or said that they could help you if you need it, like whatever, it doesn't really matter. But we need to be able to have these conversations, and it needs to be done on a regular basis. You can't go weeks and weeks without talking to your other team members.
Absolutely.
And it is up to the boss to make sure that happens every week at the very least. Maybe sometimes it would have to be done more than once a week, depending on what's going on with the project and so forth, but at least once a week.
Yeah. And I would say that it would be important to check in with people that are on your team to see how it's going, because we may look nice and organized on camera, but behind that camera, our desk and our work area and the whole life thing may just be one big hot mess. But we all want to look good, but to me, it would be imperative for a manager to actually touch base with everybody to see how it's going, and give them the opportunity to say, and the freedom to admit, look, I am sinking here. I've got so much stress with my 3 kids and their school, and I have no idea when they're getting back to school, and I get constantly interrupted, and maybe the boss says, hey, you do what you can. Maybe we could have other people help you with part of the project, and no guilt about it, because in the end, it's about the project getting done, not you didn't hold up your side of the bargain. If somebody is honestly doing that and not just going, well, I'm going to go watch Netflix for an hour and then I'll do a little bit of work, that kind of thing. I don't even think I've ever watched Netflix. Brian, do you know of anybody that's been working from home? I know you and Melinda don't. You're actually out working.
No, I do. I do.
Oh, well, yeah, I know you do.
Anything I do is dealing with public relations and that kind of stuff, advertising. I have to do with people on the phone or Zoom meetings occasionally. And some people don't like it for some reason. I don't know if it's too...
What do they say they don't like about it?
The technology part is hard. I had an interview with somebody a couple of months ago and it was canceled. Everything was set up. I did my homework. I got their email address, blah, 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 everything, the invite, this, that, and the other. And I'm sitting psyched at home thinking, oh, I'm going to get the interview now. And the president of the company is ready and this one now. The person that we're interviewing couldn't figure out the buttons. and he's a singer big time. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, this is not happening. Maybe it's my fault. And then I find out it had nothing to do with me. They're like, Melinda, you send everything. He doesn't know how to just operate. I was like, does that really happen? They go, with him, yes. So, but you know, some people, I don't know if they don't like it, if he got shy or frozen. And he's on the camera all the time singing. He's a singer, you know, but maybe he's just not technologically savvy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's very helpful to us since we can't all be together in person as a normal work and whatever we're trying to get done and completed, you know, and talking live here. So I think it's a good thing that we have this other way at our fingertips. You could just, you have an email address, and then the other is just sit there and you meet with the person and conversate about what your plan and idea, and you make it happen. So, I mean, I think it's just as effective as long as you take it and respect it and not take it for granted because, oh, we only meeting once a week or, you know, whatever time less than what we used to. So I think people should just realize that this is real. This is reality for now. This is the norm kind of that we've
Well, I
come
think it's
to.
going to be the norm way past COVID because businesses have figured out how economical it is for them.
I totally agree with you. I believe that this is the norm of after or prior, whatever events of COVID, due to COVID, this is what life is now. People are not going to be that interested unless you're a big client to meet with you. I mean, you know, there's a chance that you can have this problem and give it to someone vice versa. So people are not going to rush to meet with people like they did in, you know, 2019, as we know the real life of normalcy, you know, and until 2020 March, everything just stopped. But the real takeaway here is working together. You still can get your work done. If you need someone to help you, whether it's a language situation or just not understanding the topic or the task at hand, you should have some you know, connection with somebody. If there's 20 people and everybody's savvy at the computer, there's got to be somebody that's going to be a little nice and say, all right, you want to help me out? And I don't understand this. And give it to you a nice, brief, simple way, and you get the task done. And like you said, Sandy, you know, to help the person and just reach out and be flexible. Having that kind of attitude, it helps people to feel, okay, I don't have to be so wound up when I go there. You know, I understand what the hell they're talking about, but that person could explain to me after, break it down, you know. Sometimes we speak in jargons and different terms that people are not understanding, and they're like looking at you like, yeah, we got it. We really got it, but no, we really don't have it. When you ask them at the end of the day, they don't have it. But I think that this is the new norm, and this is going to be the norm for people to communicate and have meetings and discuss things that they want to work on in the time that we have as the new norm, because this thing is very rampant. It's going crazy. And each state of this country is doing different things at different times. One state says, keep the mask, we're wearing it, then another state decides to lift it. And, you know, it's like, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. So, Chris Berryman, you and your wife, Melinda, you both work outside of the house. Well, I know you're working in the house too, but you're not working from home in your traditional jobs. Do you know of anyone that has been working from home?
Well, my wife does that for a little bit for work because when she has to do her CE, she has to do some live streams that she has to do for her CEs. And she's okay with that because that's part of her continuing education. But I do know of people that, especially in the business that I'm working at right now, they have to end up doing some of these meetings on live streams now, and they have to do it whether it be Google Meet, Zoom, or whatever, and that they're having to do that. Because even though they only have I think 4 stores. There's just so much going on at each store. It's just no way to be able to get all the managers together or whatever. So they say, hey, get on this Google Meet call. This is what time it is, and that kind of thing. So they're doing a lot of meetings on video, and they're still either doing them at the store or they're doing them at home. It just depends which way they're at, especially when it comes to a GM and everything. But when it comes to leadership in this new way of conducting business from a remote standpoint, this is the way I see it. Leaders should be a leader no matter if it's going to be remote work or not. We got to be those leaders to help others get them to where they need to go, regardless of where they're at, whether they're at home, whether they're coming into the office 2 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever that may be. We need to end up being those leaders and say, hey, how can I help and serve you? How can I get you the tools and resources that you need and get you where you need to go? But you also got to set that precedent, that example, that if you are working from home, hey, you have to be accountable not only to yourself, you have to be accountable to your team, you have to be accountable to your leadership team, you have to be accountable to ultimately your very customers and clients that you are actually helping and serve each and every single day. So that accountability factor has to be instilled no matter what. It doesn't really matter that if you're, like I said, at the office or you're actually at home. You have to be accountable to each and every single person every day in every way. But to me, I believe there's going to be a paradox in place. There are going to be some of these people who want to get right back to the office because it's the human connection. If you don't have that human connection, it's going to be different. See, that's why I started bringing humanity together. It's because we need to really bring humanity into business and beyond. And for us to really do that, we need to get back to simple basics. And part of the basic functions of people is getting that office or getting to that job site, or that place of work, whether it be in a restaurant, retail, wherever that might be. And we have to be surrounded with people that we know, love, like, work with, and say, hey, how's the soccer tournament yesterday? How well did you do in the swim meet last week? Get back involved with people's lives, because the very community that you live in is the very community that you work in. Mm-hmm. They're not divided because of it. They're more united because of it. And that is why we need to really bring humanity together in such a way that leadership knows, no matter if you're doing a Zoom call, you're doing a webinar or lunch and learn, or whatever you have to do that you've been skilled to do or in tasked to do, you have to be, like I said, be accountable, make sure that you need to get things done. And if you need help, just like Sandy says, hey, if I could be there to help you, then let me know and I can help you there. And if you don't need any help, go get it done. And it's like what she's also said before too, on like I believe it's yesterday's call that we had. Doesn't really matter how the people get stuff done as long as they get it done. Get it done in that way. So micromanaging, even from a remote sense, would probably even be more exponential in scope, because you know what's going to end up happening. A lot of these people will end up saying, hey, like you said, I might go off and watch Netflix for an hour. Okay, I can just kind of let that go. You know, my boss has got too much on to me now. I'm just going to kind of put it down the rug. But that's why, even from a micromanagement standpoint, that's not going to be good. There's a natural balance to everything. And we got to recognize that fact, even from a remote work environment that we're in, and say, how's that balance look for Carla or Sandy or Melinda? How's that work? And if you ask those specific questions and say, are you okay with this? Or do you need any help? And then the accountability factor comes back in tenfold, because when you tell the rest of the team, not only you're accountable to yourself, you're accountable to the rest of the team, then they know, or at least they should know, that they have to be accountable to Melinda, Sandy, Carla, Brian, whoever else, and say, hey, you got to make sure that if your part's done, just like you said, Carla, go out and help someone else in the rest of the thing. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I believe that we can move forward with this.
Well, it used to be that you would have to pretty much earn privileged to be able to work from home a few days a week. And then COVID hit, and it was like the privilege went out the window. Everyone had to work from home because otherwise nobody was coming into the office. It just was not allowable. Do you think that it's really driven the micromanagers crazy?
Mm-hmm.
That they can't have somebody under their thumb?
Too bad.
To manage them? It's got to be driving them crazy.
Yes.
It is. I agree. But Carla, that is why leadership's got to be known for not yourself. It's leadership is because you're leading others. It's about the very team.
We need to lead people and not manage them.
I don't believe in management anymore. I don't
either.
It's not the right word.
No.
I'll give you a good example. We have a terrific financial team, and twice a year we used to go down to their office downtown so that we could go over everything with them. So now those meetings are held virtually, and each of them is working from home. So, they're both online, and Yale and I are here, and we have a meeting with them. Plus, they used to have events for their clients. Mm-hmm. And the last event they had, you guys are going to laugh about this. We had a wine tasting event. So what did they do? They had the wine delivered to everybody's house. Mm-hmm. And, when we had the meeting, I'm not kidding you, Chris. When we had the meeting, we sat here with our glasses of wine, and they brought in a wine expert to talk to us about there were two different wines that were delivered. Talk to us about the different wines. And
Excuse me, I need to go call my financial advisor and talk to him.
So even though we couldn't
make a note of this,
the event in person, we still had the event, and it was still fun, and we could ask questions to the wine expert because of the way it was set up. And yeah, it's not quite the same as being in person, but we still got to taste the wine and ask the questions, and could see all the other people that we normally see at the events on the screen and talk to them too. And so it was fine. And these guys are really good that they've maintained this, and they stay in touch with us. And
how did they ship the wine to you?
They had it delivered to our front doors.
Was it like small bottles?
No, they were full bottles, Carla.
Oh, really?
Full bottles of wine. And they told us, when they were going to be coming, and I made sure that I was home, so I was here when the guy rang the doorbell. And one was red and one was white.
Cool.
And it was fun. I mean, again, Yale and I sat here together with our glasses of wine and the bottles over there, and we,
I love it. I love it.
So you could still have the event even though it was virtual. And, they obviously thought about this and organized it because they generally have at least 2 or 3 events a year, different kinds of things that they do for their clients. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's buying tickets to festivals and to, different kinds of things. And sometimes it's dinners and, it's just different things that they've always done. And so this way, we did the wine tasting that would have been, probably at their office, but this way we did it virtually. But it was fine.
Awesome.
Everybody enjoyed it. We all had fun. And they asked for feedback afterwards. So, we all sent emails and let them know that we thought it was cool what they did to, manage to have something, that they wanted to have something special for their clients. And, when we used to go at Christmas time for our meeting, they would always give us some kind of gift. So now what they do is we still have the meetings, we have them virtually, but the gifts get delivered to our front door. So we still get the gifts. It's just that they make arrangements to have it delivered to the house. So they're still doing a lot of the things that they did. They're just doing it in a different way now because they're not even going into the office themselves. And they stay in touch with their team, obviously, by doing the same kinds of things that we're doing right now. And that's why they can, do a lot of this. And one of the guys, he's got little kids and they're adorable. And, we've seen them. I know his wife, and I've actually met his in-laws too, because they used to take us to baseball games.
Your family.
But he tells me, yeah, well, she's very smart and she doesn't let us get away with anything, the little kid. Yeah, well, you got to be careful. You got to be careful, Mark, or she's going to be running your life. So, but it's just, again, they've adjusted in terms of, what life is like now and what they have to do in order to still maintain that close relationship with their client and to, honor them in different ways and so on and so forth. And they're still doing, mainly all the things that they need to do. So, it's just a matter of what are you doing to maintain whatever. And it's a whole new world, and we're lucky to have the technology that we have, but utilize it so that we can still stay in touch and have conversations. And it's not the same, Melinda. I totally agree with you. It's not the same as being in person. And I'll tell you that I don't enjoy doing webinars as much as I enjoy doing live workshops, because to be honest, I don't think they're nearly as effective, because it's very hard to make them interactive. There are some platforms that have breakout rooms, but they can't really talk in the breakout rooms. They got to write stuff in the chat box.
Right.
So it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Workshop and having them go off into a corner with another group and, have discussions and so on and so forth. I'm giving one on May the 5th to a group. I've done workshops for this group before, but I've done them live. So this is a new one. I'm doing it as a webinar, and I sent them a number of different options, and they've chosen memory and how to enhance it. I do have a couple of exercises that we will be able to do, because one of them, I just tell them, okay, I just want you to sit back. Now I'm going to read you a list of words. And when I'm done, I say, okay, now I want you to write down as many of the words as you can remember. And then I'm going to tell you why you remembered the words that you did. Of course, everybody laughs. I think that's hysterical. So then I read them the list of words. And then I say, okay, how many people got the word dream? And people put up their hand. Good. How many people got the word pillow? People put up their hand. I said, that's very good. That's an example of primacy and recency. We usually remember the first thing we hear and the last thing we hear. Okay, how many people got the word night? People put up their hand. I go, that's very good. Night was repeated 3 times in the list. We usually remember things that are repeated. And then I go, okay, how many people got the word artichoke? And they all laugh and they put up their hand. So, artichoke was smack dab in the middle of that list, and it didn't relate to any of the other words. So it was a surprise. It stood out. We remember things that stand out like that. And then I look around the room and I go, okay, how many people got the word bed? And some people put up their hands. And I go, that's very interesting. Bed wasn't in the list. And that's an example of false memory. And it's the reason why eyewitnesses are not that reliable. Because unless they write down everything they saw and heard immediately after the incident, hours, days, weeks, months, years later, they will not remember the specific details. But their mind will fill in those gaps with things that make sense, but are not necessarily the truth. So it's just, and I use this same exercise in my customer service workshops, Chris, because it's the same thing. People remember the first contact they've had with you. They remember the last contact they have with you. They remember if things are consistently nice. And then I tell them, and when something goes wrong, that's when you have to be gasp worthy, because you want them to remember how you fixed it. You don't want them to remember what went wrong. So it's just a matter of, giving them understanding how the mind works. And if we understand those things, then we can be more successful with people. But it's just a matter of, and I have a couple of other exercises, and I'll have to decide which ones I'm going to use, because it's kind of hard since how they're not going to be together. But it's just,
it'd be interesting to see how it goes doing it virtually as opposed to in person.
Well, and besides, they're only giving me an hour. So I can't develop something very full in an hour.
Yeah.
It's typically a lunch learn.
Well, I know that in my company, the annual conferences that we do, what's really lacking, even though they've done a great job transitioning to virtual, and they've actually made it free for anybody that wants to watch those kind of things, which has been great. What is really lacking is that energy in the room and that connectedness and connecting with people that you've known from all over the country and all over the world, and actually getting that hug and feeling that energy together. It makes a huge difference. But a lot of people feel socially isolated. They don't like the fact that they can't go out of their house. They don't want to use Zoom. I don't know why. To me, it's a great second. But I know a lot of people have done like coffee hours together. We've done Saturday seminars together. We've done actually happy hours with people before. In fact, we actually have a phone call with a couple of ours. It was a girl I used to work with, and her husband. They moved up to Delaware to be near his brother that has ALS, and we get together on Zoom and we just talk about whatever. I'm sure we're going to be talking about golf tonight, so but it's great to have that connection because otherwise you wouldn't have it, and it's not the same as email, and it's not the same as picking up the phone.
No. And like I told you, we haven't seen our grandsons for, well over a year. So we try to Skype with them every weekend so that we can have conversations with them. But I miss the boys, I really, because I like to do things with them. But it's better than nothing. And so it's a good thing that we have the technology. At least I can see them and talk to them and, find out how their week is and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so important because my daughter, their company is looking to open up an office in Zurich, Switzerland, and when I mean, I'm thrilled for her. I want her to be able to go, and I don't care how long it is. I want my kids to see the world. It brings me back to when I lived in Italy and France from 1985 to 1995. And just when I first moved to France in 85, it was just like so far away from my parents in Atlanta. The only thing we had was an astronomically expensive phone call every once in a while or a letter. And that was it. And now when I think of technology that I can do WhatsApp with my daughter from Mogadishu or Switzerland or wherever she is in the world, it doesn't seem like it's that far away anymore. It's a 10-hour drive for me to drive from Atlanta where I am to DC, and it's going to be that far to fly. So I look at it as it's just another way of getting there, And we have such great technology to keep people connected these days.
And we're lucky that we do. I mean, I think that we're very fortunate because, as you said, even a few years ago, we didn't have this stuff. And so it was very hard. And God forbid if this pandemic had occurred, a number of years ago before we had the technology we have today, it would have been much worse because people couldn't work remotely. It would have been really hard. So, it's a matter of looking at, it's not perfect. But it's certainly better than nothing, and it gives us the opportunity to have face-to-face conversations and the opportunity for groups to gather, even though we're in person, but we can still gather and have conversations, even if we're in different cities and whatever. And I think it's a huge advantage. It's just enormously huge. And
Hey, Brian, what's the golf score? Who's leading?
Somebody was at 3 or 4 under. I don't know. I was just on a call with partners from Chicago and Seattle, so I wasn't paying attention.
Come on, you're slacking here. I need to know the golf score. My husband's downstairs watching it with the dog.
It's a beautiful warm day in Augusta, sunny and beautiful.
I know.
Oh, that's right. It's the big tournament, isn't it?
And it's beautiful and sunny here. So
I think it's supposed to rain later on tonight, but it'll be nice tomorrow. So hopefully it's going to stay beautiful.
Yeah, it's the Masters, isn't it?
Yeah. It's been really nice. It's going to get warm over the weekend down by us.
And Tiger Woods can't play. So sad.
Yeah.
So Carla, let's ask Brian of today's topic that you have for us today.
The topic today was we were talking about how leadership has been. The dynamic of leaderships have been changed from by the work and home environment.
Has it changed, or how has it changed?
How has it changed? Or do you even think it's changed?
I don't think it's changed. I think the medium from which we communicate has changed, but the nature of leadership is the same. As I kind of mentioned yesterday, I think it's a lot harder to reach people now than it was prior to them working in an office. I've worked from home for many years, but in the nature of my business, where we have to call companies and reach out to corporations and get in certain information and to do stuff, at least several weeks ago, at the latest, we were still dealing with companies who are on kind of a rotational schedule. Some people go in for a couple of weeks, then they're off for a week or two out of the office, and trying to find where people are and to reach out to them has been challenging from time to time. Whereas, when they were in the office, you could get them. They were in the office. Now it's a little harder with them being remote.
What's the theory behind rotating people through the office?
I just don't think they live with a bunch of fear and don't want to have litigation, and they want certain numbers in the office and limiting people coming in and out. But as that starts to level off, where I think people will start to be in the office more frequently than they are now, not to say that they'll be back 5 days a week, it'll probably be easier to reach people, at least in my experience of what I do. But in terms of leadership, I don't think it's changed, because I don't consider leadership to be all that remarkable to begin with. But I think it's changed for some people, probably because they're used to having someone in an office that they could walk down the hall or shoot an email to or see in passing within a building, to make sure that things are getting done. And for certain people who don't inherently trust their employees, that's probably pretty difficult. Knowing that they're home and doing whatever they're doing, and it's a lot easier to, kind of like, ooh, squirrel, and go run off to the next shiny thing, because that's more interesting than what I'm doing now. Yeah, look, I think Sandy, you had just mentioned, had this happened 3, 5, 7 years ago, it would have been different. We didn't have as good a technology. And in many ways, I wish we didn't have as good a technology, because the technology is annoying after a while. But I meet with people in person as much as I can. I get out every day almost. We go out to lunch, we go out to dinner, I play golf, we go different places, we see family, we see friends. I mean, you go to stores and do a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I don't consider it to be drastically different, outside of them forcing you to wear a mask for 5 minutes that you walk into a restaurant to sit down. But from the nature of work, yeah, it's remote. I equate it to academics. I had the privilege of creating and teaching online, and I've had the privilege of taking a lot of classes online. Working and teaching online is far less interesting than it is to take a class online. And I think the nature of work is the same. It's less interactive online. It's great. You can see people and talk to them and so forth, but the energy is a little different. And I think that at some level people might like that a lot, and I think some people might not like that a lot. I don't know.
Well, I kind of equate that with discipline. Yes. And it ties into work too, because if you're disciplined at work, you're going to be disciplined, hopefully, to work from home, and that shouldn't change any. Just like, going to school online, you have to be disciplined for that, because I did that for my 2 degrees that I got, and there's some days that you go, whose idea was this to do this, but you go, okay, this is my why, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to, get through it. You have to be disciplined to take a class online.
No doubt. We were having this conversation the other day with some people, and then, I kind of look at it that if I was 18, 19, 20-year-old college kid, would I really want to sit in front of a computer and learn? Now that I'm older and I, master's degrees, PhDs, doing all different stuff and a lot of degrees online, I much prefer to be online, because I don't really feel like sitting there and talking to a professor who doesn't know anything. Like I can figure it out all myself.
Why does that not surprise me?
Unless I had a major question, I don't need them, in a sense. But if I was 18, yeah, I think that would be really difficult. to sit there and to be on a computer and to make time for myself when, you know, I have 17 other windows that I can open on my computer that are more interesting than whatever I'm doing at that moment. But yeah, discipline is certainly one of them. I think maturity, I mean, as you get older, it becomes something that you want to do as opposed to something you think you have to do.
Well, maturity plays a big part in that. I think that if you're 18 or 19, if you're going to college and you have to be somewhere, you have to be there and you're made to go. If you've got a job and you have to be on site somewhere, you're made to go, you know?
Yes.
It's just like my daughter used to tell me in her younger days, oh, I need a personal trainer or I need a class because otherwise I won't go for accountability. And then it's where that self-accountability comes in, that you have to be accountable at your job. If you're going to do school online, you've got to make yourself accountable. If you're going to take care of your health or you're going to work out and you don't want to pay a personal trainer and you don't want a gym membership, then you've got to be accountable to yourself.
Oh, and I remember going through my PhD, and there were many Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays that I'd be writing that I didn't really want to write, but you know, I was able to defend everything and get everything done. From the day I defended my topic to the day I defended the actual dissertation was about a year. And that just took time, you know. I mean, it takes discipline to sit and to do it. Not everybody's capable of, and look, the workplace has changed to an extent, but not every industry is going to change. Not every industry can be remote. You know, just the nature of that, you know, unless they figure out how to operate on someone completely remotely, I don't see.
Right.
You know,
there's a lot of healthcare that cannot be remote.
Yeah.
Look what the pandemic has done to telehealth.
I mean, if I was still practicing dental hygiene, you can't do that remotely. You got to be there in the room with the patient. I mean, there's no way.
Yeah, but look what's happened with telehealth. You know?
For questions, but I mean, you know, when there's actually procedures that have to be done, the body has to be there.
Right.
Right.
And there's some things in the telehealth world that you've got to, you know, you've got to actually feel lymph glands and lymph nodes and things like that, you know. But how many times have people gone into their physician to say they have this, that, or the other, and the practitioner doesn't even touch them? You know, they say, well, it sounds like X, Y, and Z. Here you go. You know?
Well, Carla, to that point, I think what's happening is you're seeing a lot of businesses create processes around their jobs. And that's good and bad. I mean, the process is only as good as it's designed, one, but two, if it's only a process and that's what you do going through, you know, questionnaires and answering stuff, there's no flexibility to it. You know, I mean, when was the last time you call up for tech support and instantly the person you're talking to, you can tell is simply reading off a script and they're giving you answers that aren't even concurrent to what you're asking. It's like, stop, time out. Like,
that's why I use Google or my son.
Well, but that's where it's going. So many businesses are going, here's the answer, look it up, and then you find an answer, and it's completely not what you're looking for. You know, it almost reminds me of Tom Friedman's book that came out many years ago about the world is flat and the globalization that was going on, where you're going to have a lot of local businesses that are still going to be local. But what's happened is that this stuff right in front of us has expanded the local business reach to become global. And I don't think anyone anticipated that happening within a short period of time that it has. Not that those businesses are going to go out of business. It's just that, hey, I can have a coaching business from Boca Raton, Florida, and I can coach someone all over the world.
Well, I know a guy that I met from New Jersey. He's actually living in Sweden with his 2 kids, and he actually created an app to where no matter where you are in the world, if you're in the Philippines and you want to take a yoga class, you get on the app, you look up a yoga class and see who's available, and anyone throughout the world can teach that class to you.
Yeah. yeah, and there's some fabulous things that are happening. You know, one of the things that I think has done a real disservice to people is this stupid sentence that we call it social distancing. I mean, it has nothing to do with social distance. It's about physical distance. And I think people believe that they interpret social distance that they're no longer connected to people. And they want it so much, but it's actually physical distancing. And I think social distancing has, whether you want to believe it or not, has been planned and implemented in a certain way for people to believe what they want. But the language behind what we use in the world makes a huge difference. You know, I mean, yeah, certain people haven't gotten together, but we're connected. We're still connected. And you can still connect anytime. You know, so socially, we can still do a lot of things. It's a little stilted in 2 dimensions at sometimes, but you know,
we're just connected in a different way.
Yeah. You know,
and we ought to feel thankful that we have this opportunity because we didn't have it 10 years ago.
No, not the same. I mean, Skype's been around a while, but Skype is kind of, you know, been passed over by Zoom or Amazon Chime or Google Meets or Hangouts or, you know, Microsoft Teams, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they all do the same thing. Yeah, probably 7 other apps that do it too.
So as we wrap up, because we're coming up on the hour, we can take turns just to determine if you were in an office versus working from home, and a lot of us have done that, or they have some reference point of comparison. Do you put in the same amount of work and accountability at home as you do as if you were in an office?
Well, it's not fair. I've always worked from home because I started my business from here. So my home office is where I'm sitting right now. And
right. Me too.
I mean, I've always done that. And I contact my clients. Sometimes, you know, before this pandemic, I would contact them. So, you know, either by phone or by email, and we would arrange to have a face-to-face meeting so I could really have an in-depth discussion with them. And oftentimes I would go to wherever they were and sit down with them and bring some of my examples of syllabuses with me and so on and so forth. But I worked there. I mean, like yesterday afternoon, what I did is I put together the program for that group that I'm going to do the memory and how to enhance it workshop on. And I sent them the syllabus yesterday afternoon, and I already this morning had an email from the guy saying thank you very much and looking forward to the session. So, you know, but it just, to me, I miss the direct interaction. I mean, it's nice to have this, and I don't mind doing this to talk to people because we don't have a choice, but I miss doing live workshops, and I miss having my meetings with people and so on, because again, I just don't feel that in the teaching realm, it's quite as effective as, you know, the live sessions where I can see people and I get a sense of what's going on in the room. So I know if I have to re-explain something or, you know, whatever. And as I told you before, I mean, the way I structure my sessions, they're not lectures. I sometimes start with a game and I bring prizes and I teach a concept and then I give them something to do. So either they answer a questionnaire and we debrief it, or they do something with a partner and we debrief it, or they do something in a group and we debrief it. That way they're actively involved in their learning experience, which means that they're going to probably retain it better. Because retention really, you know, you retain maybe 20% of what you hear. And after 2 weeks, you forget half of that. But you retain up to 90% of what you say and do. And again, I'm not teaching rocket science. So you get a reasonably intelligent group of people together and give them an assignment of something to do. They'll come up with anything I could think of. Occasionally, something that I think is important gets missed, so I will add it in. But by and large, you know, they come up with everything I would have thought of. And they'll remember it better because they came up with it. So, you know, it's just a matter of what are we doing? And as a presenter and as someone who does a lot of teaching, and I've taught in lots of universities, Brian, it's, you know, what are you doing? So I like my participants to have fun with their learning experience. I want them to enjoy it and take away things so that they're actually going to benefit from the session. And the only way that can happen is if they're actively involved in that learning experience. And it's much harder to do online, much harder to do.
I bet.
So, you know, it is what it is. You know,
Yeah.
what to say. So, you know, I mean, it's okay. We don't have a choice these days. So, you know, that's just where we are. But I'm looking forward to when we can go back to having live meetings, live sessions and whatever, because I think it's more.
Yeah, I think we all are wanting a little bit more hands-on social interaction. That's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to one day moving to Florida, or at least vacationing down in Florida in the near future. What about you, Melinda?
Stay away. We have enough people down here.
The work for me is
I'm hitting
it
the West
depends a
Coast,
lot.
Brian.
But for now, what I'm doing is a lot of remote talking to people on the phone and Zoom calls or whatever if I need to reach out to certain people, contacts. But I give it my all as I would being in the office 9 to 5 in person every day with people as I do at home. That's just me, my accountability. I give it my best because that's who I am. I hope one day that we can still go back to the normal way, which is normally meeting in the office. You're there to whatever time, whatever. You choose to work from home because that is more, you're going to get more done, whatever, then it's your choice. But I would hope that this is not the only way, because this is right now for the normalcy of what we know and the new normal, whatever you want to call it. But hopefully this won't be the only way. We'll go back to the old.
Well, I'm hoping we'll come up with a combination of other things and be able to blend some of these styles in to give people a little bit more work-life balance and give them the opportunity and allow them to show that they can be trusted to work from home and that the projects are going to get done.
Yes,
you know?
yeah. Whether it's there live at the job or at your home. And I think it also depends on you, the individual, who takes your job seriously. You know, you go there every day, you know your peoples, you know what you got to do, you know you clock out a certain time. But now it's different. They ask you to stay home and do the tasks, the same things every day. It's all about accountability of your ownership of doing that job. So it shouldn't matter. Your production shouldn't say because I'm in there in person, I get 90%, and now that I'm at home, I only get 60%. If anything, you probably should get maybe a little bit more because you have less situations going on. It's more direct.
Right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope that you will maybe do what we call a call to action to take a look at a couple of things in the workplace and maybe recommend to your leadership to set up weekly meetings or some fun events like we were talking about. And also just do some self-reflection on, are you giving your 100% at home as well as you would do in the office? If not more so. So feel free to, if you are watching this on the replay, comment replay and let us know where you're coming in from. If you would like to join us on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, we have Sharing Care with Sandy on Tuesday, Conversations for Humanity on Wednesday, and Happy Hour for Humanity on Thursdays. So thank you all so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Thanks, Carla.
Thanks,
Bye,
Carla.
everybody.